Testing, 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 testing. JB here, December 15th, 2023. Just going to get on really quick. Don't want to talk about too much that I didn't talk about yesterday. Obviously, look at DocuSign, a report out from the Wall Street Journal. They're looking to, explore a sale. Uh, who knows what that premium looks like? I mean, it's $11 billion. uh, Tough to say there. Um, and then I'll talk just really quick about Trupanion, and then Biogen, Adobe, and the S&P. But first, I'll talk about DocuSign. So the start of the week, so they reported earnings. Let's see if I can get it here. At the start of the week, and then it was rallying. So I didn't want to be in a position where I missed out on the news. They reported earnings last week, and it seemed like there was some continuation into this week. So I think it was like 52, $53. So I passed on Monday. Then I got the 57 strikes on Tuesday, locked some in to cover costs for 100%. Then it sold off on Wednesday, but then rallied back to even. And then Thursday, I sold off the calls for profit. I just didn't want to lose out on those profits. And then sure enough, I think it closed at 57. And then here it is today. And the irony, it's at $55 to start the day. So if you want to look back, you say, wow, it's a great move to lock the 57 strikes in. And I got them for 22 cents. Very, very inexpensive. But then here it is, 2 o'clock on a Friday on triple witching, the biggest, $5 trillion of notional options are expiring, value of options are expiring today, the biggest since 2012. And what happens, there's a report out at 2 o'clock on the day of expiration that they're exploring a sale. Who knows? I'm not calling shenanigans or shady stuff. It's just funny how some of this stuff works. If it was Monday or Tuesday, some people might make money on the other side, right? But the fact that most people have closed some of the premiums out, especially if it's a monthly expiration, which it is now, the third Friday of the month is the monthly expiration, and sure enough, this news comes out. But we'll have to see how that plays out. So, I posted on private Twitter. I posted in the chat room. Adobe is a name that's in that space, right? So if you look at DocuSign, I wouldn't say their main competitor, but it's one of the biggest competitors is Adobe. So Adobe has similar technology. I'm not going to say at some point they're going to surpass, DocuSign as the John Hancock of signatures, but they certainly, they're in. You would think that that's a company that would probably look to maybe acquire DocuSign. So I don't know if that's the case, especially with Adobe's recent run to the upside based on the AI craze. That's created the ability for Adobe to probably go out and look to do some acquisitions, which would be smart, right? If you're a company, you're a publicly traded company, to use that as a vehicle to grow your business. So whether it's, I hate to do you hate to see offerings, but that's why you're a publicly traded company. You have access to capital to grow your business. As long as you're executing and delivering on your business plan. So who knows what Adobe's looking, if it's Adobe or some other company, but I thought that would be net negative. So anytime you buy a company, so I use the analogy in a Broadcom, excuse me, AVGO. They acquired a software company a couple years ago, and I thought that was a net negative because I'm like, if you're a shareholder in Broadcom, you're all about the chips and all that stuff. You're not about the software. If you want to buy a software company, you go and find a nice high growth or a stable software company. You don't buy a chip company so that they go out and acquire a software company. It just doesn't make sense to me. So we'll have to see how this all plays out with Adobe and DocuSign. So it's right here, 582. It's gonna be tough. So at first the puts look great. Now we have an hour and a half left till the end of the day. It's gonna be tough. All right, so that's Adobe and that's DocuSign. Trupanion. So at 8 o'clock, right after the after hours session closed, Trupanion and Aflac came out with a joint press release saying that they are nixing their Japan rollout. So Aflac it's a international insurance company, right? And they insure companies across the globe, and they have a big a part of a big. I don't even know how large the market is that they insure in Japan, but they have a lot of companies they insure in Japan. So the partnership with Trupanion was that they would roll out a pet insurance program for those folks that they have insurance for in Japan. So it's a win-win, right? So Aflac gets the customers to have a better value proposition for their insurance. So their insurance is more valuable because now it insures their pets. And Trupanion wins because now they get exposure to folks. They get them in that ecosystem. And then let's say they leave Aflac, but they still have a relationship with Trupanion and probably keep that insurance. So it's a win-win. And so they were hoping to roll it out in the second half of 2023. They announced the press release in 2022, and then after the close yesterday, they announced that they're withdrawing that partnership in Japan. They're just going to focus on North America. So it's a very easy press release for the folks who are short the name to say, wow, this is horrible for Trupanion, right? But first of all, it's not like Aflac and Trupanion are rolling out insurance across Japan through all the vet offices in that country. No, it's just from those folks that have Aflac insurance in Japan. So that's one point. And two, Aflac reissued a commitment to Trupanion for their $200 million investment in the company, saying we're going to focus on North America, which has the biggest opportunity right now. So, on one hand, you could say, wow, that's a big miss for Trupanion. On the other hand, it's like, hey, let's focus on the big opportunity that we have right now and then worry about some of the other opportunities that lie ahead. So we'll have to see how this all plays out. Unfortunately, at some point, insurance fraud, at some point I have to look to, I had a couple of my 3250s left. They were up big yesterday. I let them drip away here. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to close them out, but still have some January 3750s. I'll continue to hold those. And then, like I've been saying, it's a very divisive name. So would not be surprised to see it. Maybe it's 30, then back up to 3750, then to 31, and up to 40. But I still look at the long-term premise of the name and the opportunity ahead of it, and I think it's much higher than where it trades right now. So that's Trupanion. Biogen, I talk about these catch-up names. So Biogen's down 10% on the year. It's one of those names. It's had some issues with Alzheimer's, and I think there's a lot of negative sentiment. Some people think that Biogen probably has their hands in the pockets of some of these FDA officials that do approvals because of the approval for their Alzheimer's drugs. Then you have to think about the expense and how expensive it is and the scrutiny that it comes under. Is it really effective? So I think there's a lot of issues with Biogen, but here it is down 10%. Still a great company, still has a lot of great products, a great pipeline. So I went and looked and, I'm like the 260s seem pretty inexpensive on a risk reward basis. It's a full trading week next week. It's near the end of the year, and people who have probably repositioned themselves and maybe are short exposure in the biotech sector are going to start looking for exposure. And some of these names, Regeneron, Biogen, Gilead, those are some of the names that I would think that people are going to probably look to get some exposure to into 2024, right? So that's kind of the thought process there. I look at the chart on Biogen, and I don't know if I can put it up on. I'll put it in the watch list, not in the watch list in the chat room. But geez, I hate to be optimistic, and sometimes, similar to what I was talking about with Align the last couple of weeks. But I mean, I didn't think Align was going to go and fill the gap so quick, and sure enough, my 240 calls paid off. Hang on a second, folks. I'm just trying to get the chart up. But I think it goes up to 270. I'm crazy. Yes, Alzheimer's. Yes. Maybe I said it too quick. Yeah, they're Alzheimer's drug. However you pronounce it. Sometimes when you don't know how to pronounce a word, you say it really quick, and then people think you pronounce it correctly. Yeah, so I'm crazy. Back in July was the last time it was at its 200-day moving average. Old timers. Again, a horrible affliction, right? So I always talk about having the great, I wouldn't say the great opportunity, but the benefits that come from trading biotech stocks is not only can you make money trading some of these names that have positive data or things like that, but also positive outcomes for people's lives, right? It's improving people's lives. I mean, what better space can you trade in where you're able to make money and know that some people on that you don't even know, their lives are being improved for the better. So, it's a flip side. People short stocks, and I remember, Mikey hasn't been here for a while, but he used to get mad at. Well, I used to be pretty bullish Sears Holdings because there was huge short interest, large. You could account for 100% of the outstanding share count from insiders, institutional investors, and shorts. So 100+% of the outstanding share count of Sears Holdings was accounted for, and there was a 40% short interest. So to me, I wasn't looking at Sears Holding and saying, wow, this is the next big retail thing. I was looking at it as a trade opportunity. But then on the flip side, you got to say at some point this company is going to go bankrupt. So then you start trading on the put side, and it's tough because now you're saying people are going to lose their jobs, businesses are going to lose sales, things like that, but you're going to make money on it, So that's a tough one. But on the flip side, when you trade some of these bio names that have some positive data or some positive outcomes for folks who have these ailments that would not be addressed from any other way, but from some kind of solution from a drug, it's it's a win-win. So GLP-1 killed the late night munchies. I don't get WW here. I bang my head against the wall, similar to VKTX when it went all the way back down to $10. I don't even know how much volume it has today. There's still a lot of people short. I think it's still a 20% short interest on WW. I don't even know if that's up from the last reading. Yes, 20.28% of the float is short on WW. And then I don't even know, is it a NASDAQ stock? Because then I can't even see it. I don't think I can see it. Yeah. So I'm not going to, you've heard my rants on WW. I'm not going to talk too much about that. And then so many positions I had on at the start of the week. Nice to lock a lot of those in, and I don't want to ruin the weekend, so I'll just hold the Adobe puts. We'll see what happens here in the last hour. Chewy looks good. Chewy, I guess some analyst upgrades. A Wedbush upgraded their price target to 25 from 23. Needham took it from 20 to 25. It's typical what happens on these investor days. It's not like you go to an investor day or an analyst day and the company's gonna be like, oh, our revenues stink, our business is horrible, our guidance. No, they're gonna do a cheerleading session, and typically what you see after those events is analyst upgrades and things like that. So that's it. Any thoughts on Baidu? So there was China stimulus overnight. You see some of these China names rallying. I've said it for quite some time on Baidu. I used to be in a position where I didn't like Baidu too much because I think they took their position of strength in the search side of the business in China. They kind of relaxed and started to go after some things that didn't pan out, and then all these other companies caught up to them. And now they take their search business and that market position they have, and then they subsidize other businesses they're looking to go after. And I think it's the last 3 or 4 years they started putting AI in their press releases on their earnings. And I used to almost like mock them because it sounded to me like they were trying to distract from their results. But now it seems like they're, at least some of the initiatives they've taken in AI are starting to bear fruit. China announced they're one of the I don't know if it's one of 9 companies approved for some AI technologies, which I guess is a big deal. And, it's sitting here at 114, but it's got that, what do they call that? The wet blanket over it, So China's regulatory situation plus some issues with the U.S. and China is like a wet blanket on top of all the China ADR stocks. And until that's removed, it's tough to kind of trade these. So I'll probably just stay on the sidelines for now on Baidu. Some of the positions I've traded on Baidu over the last couple months have not panned out. So it's probably a sign to kind of sit back and wait for another opportunity. So that's it. Oh, PayPal. Yeah. So all the way up to 61 yesterday. I didn't even look today. It's another one of those names that's going to expire, but what are you going to do? Let's see here. And you know what's surprising is you take a look at PayPal. I'm like, why is Visa and MasterCard just on monster runs? I mean, Visa from the start of November was 230. Now it's 260. Take a look at MasterCard. All the way down to 360. Now it's 420. Well, actually 415. And you look at, to me, it's like MasterCard and Visa are like, they're like the coal companies, and PayPal, Square, and all these other third party processors that don't, haven't been around for decades. Those are like the green energy companies, right? The new hot thing. But MasterCard and Visa still have a huge, grapple hold on transactions everywhere. It's pretty much, I wouldn't call it, blackmail, but like if you're not accepting Visa, MasterCard, you can't do business. You don't issue a credit card that's not backed by one of them. It's not gonna have a lot of people sign up for it. So until that cycle ends, it probably continue to do well. And surprising, I think PayPal and Square's been actually, I mean, it's $75 back at earnings. I have to look what I got the calls at. Stock was at $40 at the start of November. It's 75. So I mean, they have some of the small business side of it outside of PayPal, but you have to think at some point PayPal's going to reverse courses and at least to 72.50. So the gap's up at 71. Let's see, I put the chart on there. And they have Venmo, right? So I mean, geez, everybody uses Venmo. Anybody watch that Netflix? Was it We Come Home to the World or something like that? It's the number one streaming movie. I was not a big fan. I watched it. I said, wow, this is the biggest 1.5 hour waste of my time. But there were two big things on there. One was these Tesla vehicles getting smashed by, I guess someone took them over and smashed them into each other on the expressway. And then he talked about Venmo and Apple Pay. I was like, oh. No, it was, who's in that now? I'm trying to think. I'm going blank. But anyway, if you have time, watch it. By all means, I hate to ruin it. If someone didn't watch it, the good thing is I set a low bar now. So now you think the movie is horrible. So if it exceeds your expectations by just a little bit, you'll think it's a great movie. As opposed to me saying it's the best movie ever. And then you watch it and say, what the heck is JB saying? Yeah, so interesting stuff that, anyway. All right, rants for other days. I'm trying to think of, so I posted the 2K challenge details. If you haven't read it, send an email, suggestions. And then also I posted on Twitter about my top 5 stocks for 2024 webinar. Starting to work on it. It's going to take some time. I hope to have out before the start of the new year. The irony, I think I posted 9 or 10 of the stocks that I've posted, and this will be the 11th year of doing the top 5 stocks of whatever year it is webinar. So for example, I've profiled 50 stocks, and 9 of them, or more than 9, have been acquired. And then sure enough, what happens after I put that out today? DOCU was one of my top 5 stocks a couple years ago, and DOCU is probably going to get acquired. So probably before the year is out, that'll be another name. Doesn't mean, some of those names, so for example, LinkedIn, I think when I profiled it, it started, I forget the whole thing, but it was actually down a little bit before it got acquired by Microsoft. GBT, I'd have to look at all those names, but needless to say, it should be fun. If you have any suggestions, post them. I have to update the link in the chat room. It was the 2023 ideas. I'll update to 2024. Yeah, SMG, I already locked in some of the calls. I think you look at the volatility, it was down to 50. I think it was 57. Might have been lower. 56. Wednesday, right? So Thursday 60. Yeah. So it hit 56 right at the open on Wednesday. I think it heads higher. So I locked some of my calls in already to cover costs, and I'll just ride the rest. I think it's another catch-up name, and spring season comes. It's another one of those names that might get some seasonality effect, especially ahead of the spring season as opposed to during the spring season. So that's kind of the thought process there. All right, folks, that's it. Everybody have a great weekend. Hope everybody had a great week, and rock and roll.